Hey there, everybody. Welcome back with the Purplatypus is the name. And today, I kind of want to show you one of my end game builds here for a team after the post game. This is basically going to be a magic focused team. It's all about exploiting weaknesses and having characters that do similar things, but not quite the same thing, so that you can have basically a lot of synergy within it. Now, I think there's also a really good case for like a strong physical team build, of course. And in fact, I think it might even be stronger, but I wanted to go with Magic because it's just slightly more fun, tends to have better AoE options, and also, I just like these characters a lot, and I thought that they worked well together. Also, there's a lot of synergy within this. I feel like the physical build is less about synergy and more about just having really, really powerful characters and then a support, you know? But I'll probably go over that as well. So what is the basis of this build? Now, I am using these four characters specifically because for different reasons. We'll kind of go over it. So first, Ichiban, he's not removable from the party. If you're in Hawaii, you need Ichiban in the party. If you're in Japan, then you need Kiryu in the party. So this build only works really in Hawaii, as you can do Kiryu, but he has to be a host, and I feel like that's just like not really what the game is about in a sense. Like I don't think that's I don't think the magic build works as well in Japan. So I'm probably going to use a physical build for Japan and a more magic build for Hawaii. But let's go over each character. Can we go over their gear first? No, let's go over their jobs. So we have Ichiban as the Suji Mancer. Now, I think the Suji, really, as far as the guys go, there's not that many really, really strong magic dealer classes. There is the Chef, but the Chef is like a 50-50. They're more like a hybrid, and they actually are probably a little more physical than magical. The Aquanaut is almost entirely physical. You can get a couple abilities here, but I don't think they're that good. The Pyro Dancer, again, has like two abilities, and actually I do think Mask of Punishment is like super good. Well, maybe not super good, but I think it's great against certain bosses. So really what you're looking at is the host. Now, I don't think I want to have two hosts on the party. One, I want to have I kind of just like the I like the Suji Mancer, right? He's the only one that could be a Suji Mancer. That's why we're basically doing it. It could easily exploit all of the elemental weaknesses, and it has an AoE heal and has a strong AoE attack. So I just think that the Suji Mancer is like an obvious no duh on Ichiban. Now, as far as the gear on Ichiban, no weapon on the Suji Mancer, right? This is a double-edged sword. This means that it's going to be powerful without ever having to do anything. However, it also means that I don't know if the ceiling is as high. I'll have to find out as I get later into the game and get into legend mode after I buy that DLC. Is the damage going to fall off compared to max level super weapons, or is it going to relatively keep up, but is it just a more steady instead of like the spikiness of the weapons? I'm going to recommend his true armor. The Suji Mancer doesn't have any unique armor, and I think the Rainbow Hat is like probably the best equipment for this magic-based build. Now, I don't necessarily recommend these shoes. I think I would go to the Wizard Boots if I had more of them, where your physical attack damage is derived from willpower instead of defense. Now, if I'm to understand this correctly, I think this is maybe a slight mistranslation or not clear, but the physical damage you receive, you don't use defense to block it. You instead use willpower to block it. That is how I infer this, meaning that basically defense is a dump stat, and you could just go all willpower, and that'll block for magic and for physical. Now, if it somehow means when there's a chance that this means when you deal damage physically, your physical damage will go against the enemy's willpower instead of your physical damage going against their defense. Physical attack damage is derived from willpower instead of defense. So I assume because this is an armor, this is affecting us and not them. But I could read it both ways. However, if it works the good way, then you want Wizard Boots. If it works the bad way, then you don't want Wizard Boots. So that's going to be kind of, obviously, just kind of whatever the best accessories you have. Now, one downside of this class is you do need to level the Sujimon, which is a downside and an upside, depending on who you ask and stuff, I suppose. But These are not as good as they should be right now. You can get these up to 999 Sujiman stats, but you need to get legendary Sujimon. It becomes 849 is not super hard. To get it beyond that, or even above 699, could be pretty rough. You have to dedicate time to the minigame, but I think it's worth it. And obviously, well, I don't because I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to do it before I go into New Game Plus. So the second character I got here is going to be Chitose. Why am I using Chitose? I think she has a I'm using Chitose because of her unique armor. So basically, she's going to be a Geo Dancer, and she's going to be using a little bit of Kunoichi and a little bit of Housekeeper. So she's obviously, her primary job is a Geo Dancer. I think this is kind of the cornerstone of the entire build. This is a support character kind of through and through. You can raise everyone's magic. You can, AoE heal everyone while removing their status ailments. You can also lower enemies' willpowers. You can do debuffs, you can do buffs, you could do damage, you could do healing, you could do status ailment. And actually, I think kind of low-key, the best buff, if you're going to start going into legend mode and higher difficulties, is going to be Ukulele Strum. This boosts nearby allies' willpower and evasion. So if you have everyone having the wizard boots on, and now they're all getting, their damage is received is from willpower, you're basically reducing all damage that they take twofold, 2 times, right? By the willpower and making it so they're going to evade more. So this becomes a super, super important buff for just keeping people alive, probably, in my opinion. And then they kind of just do everything else, right? Like, if you look at the ones that I have, I don't think I have a job thing right here. But maybe I can just look at the skills she has equipped. Check skills. Okay, I can't see which one she has equipped, but I like having, she's also, Chitose is the fastest character in the game, I think, baseline, like without anything going on. So just having substitution jutsu on her is just really good because it lets you choose the order of your turns. And then just having a little bit of, I think it's really good to have a little bit of Housekeeper, basically get everyone, or almost everyone, a Scum Scraper, because this is a grapple that does heavy damage, so it's already good, but it also removes buffs. And because it's a grapple, I don't think it can miss. I don't think I've ever missed with a grapple, even when the enemy has triple evasion boost. But this removes buffs, which could be really good. Suddenly an enemy gets 3x attack, you're just going to fucking die once the difficulty gets high enough. So I think that's really, really good. And again, for her gear, the reason why we're using her as a specifically, I think Chitose is the best Geo Dancer in the game for 2 reasons. One, the Paradise Maracas is an insane, I'll admit, the defense on these characters are pretty low. The survivability of the Geo Dancer is really low, which is why I think Ukulele Strum and Wizard Boots is going to be so important. But chance of a magic buff at the start of your turn, and you recover HP whenever you receive a buff. Also, her unique gear, exclusive for Chitose, is whenever you recover MP whenever you receive a buff. This basically means she has infinite MP and you never need to worry about it. And as someone that can deal damage, heal, support, buff, debuff, I think it's real. You always have, or she could just switch her turn out. You could always have a good use for her turn. The only time she doesn't have infinite mana is if you let it get too low with an ability. Sorry, my eye itches. But here's the thing. If she does the Ukulele Strum and gives everyone increased defense or gives everyone magic, this includes herself, and she'll actually gain MP from using those abilities. So she becomes absolutely insane. And then sometimes at the start of her turn, especially if you're doing the substitution dance, like there's like, let's say Ichiban's next, you switch turns with Ichiban. Then her turn comes up twice in a row, like right away, because it was her turn. Then the next turn is also her turn. She has a double chance to get the magic buff. And whenever you get this random magic buff, you get HP, you get MP. So absolutely, I think kind of a broken combo. The only thing I'm worried about is the survivability. But I think after I get the, I get more wizard boots, and then I start using Ukulele Strum, I think that'll help a lot. But enemies are getting fast too. If enemies can outspeed your team, she has 210 agility, which is like way higher than everyone else. So when enemies start outspeeding her, that's like kind of crazy because I have a lot of everything she has, right? 20, 30, 40. She has 50 base, plus another 15 just on her equipment, right? So that's kind of crazy. But sometimes enemies still outspeed her, but it's rare. So say Psycho. Psycho is going to be my housekeeper. I had this all set up ahead of time. I was leveling up. I wanted to level up everything before I did it. So she's a housekeeper. She has I like having her have a little bit of Geo Dancer. I want her to have Breath of Life. I don't really care about anything else specifically. like, yes, Essence of Natural Healing could be good, but if I'm only going to get one super attack, I'm probably going to go with something a little more damage dealing, but I might not. Essence of Natural Healing might just be so good that I take it on all my characters, or all my female characters. Other than that, in the Geodancer class, I do like having either a ukulele strum or the hula. It's kind of nice just to have a buff here. I'd probably get rid of the magic buff and just take ukulele strum as the game gets harder. But that's gonna, for now, I kind of just like being able to get everyone's MP up or magic up really quickly. So Housekeeper is kind of self-sufficient, right? It basically just does good damage. The standout abilities are Scum, Scraper, Scraper. There's not that many good fire attacks in this, so if you can get like a heavy damage dealing fire attack, which I don't even think that there is, maybe the Night Queen has something there. No, I don't think so. So I don't like that. The thing about the female casters is they don't have great fire and they have nearly no lightning. So they're mostly ice damage dealers. But I mean, still, this isn't a bad ability, right? Iron Matriarch is not bad. So other than the Housekeeper and the Geodancer, I do think that this is kind of like her sub. Most of her abilities are going to come from the idol. Like I would take the Magical Concert, Miraculous Voice, and then that's probably pretty much it. I mean, as far as her base class, like these are fine, but none of this are things that I particularly want. Like maybe a Champagne Splashdown, but the Housekeeper already has such good stuff. So that's kind of what we're going with her. She's going to maintain a Housekeeper. As far as her gear, I actually think the Housekeeper has some of the best stuff here. So the unique Housekeeper gear equipment is the boost damage to enemy weaknesses, which means she's going to be one of our main magic dealers. Also, a good thing about Housekeeper, way better defenses than most of the other classes. So, or like, than at least the other female support classes. So this unique gear, the Wizard Hat, I think is temporary. The Wizard Boots, I've explained that before. I think I'll probably do something like a Rainbow Hat, getting 20 more magic once I get some more. I'm still farming some of this like specific gear that I want. But as for this, I actually think the Cabernet Queen dress is really good. You might want to use the Housemaid specific one. Let me see if I can remember exactly what it does. I had it pulled up, and I decided I didn't want to go for it. Let's take a look. Infinite Wealth, Housekeeper Armor. I just don't remember exactly off the top of my head exactly what it was. Okay. It was the Housekeeper does chance of magic buff at the start of your turn. So I actually think that could be really good as well. But one thing I've had an issue with is sustainability. Because it's a magic team, they require MP. And even though Chitose basically has infinite, the other characters don't. So I feel like this was pretty good. But if you're going all, balls to the wall, the Housekeeper one just giving you random buffs every now and then is going to be pretty good. And then finally, we're using Eric. Tommyzawa. I think Tommyzawa is probably the best of the party, potentially. Because Cabby is just kind of an insane job. However, we're not going to have him as a Cabby. We're going to have him as a host. Now, you could choose to go Cabby, and you're going to get more survivability a little bit, right? 25 defense, which we don't really care about because we're using Wizard Boots, right? And then you're getting a little bit of HP, but you're losing 22 magic and 23 willpower. So I actually think the survivability is arguably not as good. A little bit of agility. So I think the Cabby is only useful if you desperately want to use the weapon, which lowers, can paralyze, and it lowers lightning resistance. But I actually think that you don't need that because you have, as a Cabby, you already have Scrub Down, which does great damage. It's a grapple again. The ice abilities in this game are just so strong, and it reduces their resistance to electricity. So I basically say grab some of the most powerful Cabby abilities, right? Grab Scrub Down. Foozy Doozy I don't think is needed because I think we have a heavy... I think this is heavy. I don't remember off the top of my head. Battery Storm is fantastic. Oil and Toil is so good because sometimes enemies don't have weaknesses, so you don't need to use lightning, you don't need to use ice or fire. So then you could use your magic to reduce their fire resistance, and then you can have your team start doing fire damage, so you're still getting advantages. Or if they are like weak to ice or they're not resistant to ice and they're already weak to electricity, you can kind of double down on this, increasing their weakness to electricity. So the ability to kind of just lower enemies' resistances while doing great damage is pretty unique to the cabbie. The only other thing that I think you should definitely get is you want to get the Mask of Punishment. This is an ability, you use it once, and then it's like the next 3 or 4 turns, I don't remember, it's going to do an attack on a random enemy at the start of the turn. Now, when there's a bunch of weak enemies, this is a fucking terrible ability, but when you're fighting one boss, like a really strong boss, this becomes really, really good. Especially if like you use it once, and then you just scrub dancer, or scrub down the last 2 abilities. You get to just lower their resistance while you're doing lightning damage at the same time and doing a lot of ice damage. Or, you know, and as your magic's going up, it's going to do more damage. So for one action, like this could do thousands of damage for one action, you know, in a relatively, well, I guess that's kind of a high MP cost, honestly. It's not very much a low MP cost, but the more enemies there are, the worse this is. But I think if you're fighting a boss and you're getting set up, I think that this is like a great, like, from an action economy standpoint, it won't seem great, but over the course of like 15 turns, you know, let's say Tommy gets 10 turns in combat. In order to do the most amount of damage in those 10 turns, I think that'll involve using this once every 3 to 4 turns. And then the reason we're having him host is mostly because of the stats, honestly. The stats are better on the host than they are for the cabbie. But the host has a lot of great abilities too. You know, a lot of good AoE stuff, you know, good single target stuff, good damage, lots of CC. The host is overall pretty good. As far as the gear itself on Eric, I do like his unique gear. Boost damage to enemy weaknesses. I think this is great. It's basically the same thing the Housekeeper has, but it's arguably better because it's not tied to the class, it's tied to the character. And then we're using the ultimate weapon here, of course. This is mostly for stats, but if you're fighting a bunch of little guys and then you get to do an AoE, you kill the enemies, you instantly get a full magic buff. That's pretty good. I don't think it's insane. It's not my favorite of the weapons. I would prefer the cabbie weapon, but I think that you're losing too much magic to take the cabbie weapon. And honestly, the cabbie weapon's not that good because you're not applying your weapon's attributes almost ever. I think the cabbie would be better on Namba when you could use Pigeon Swarm, and then you could have a chance to AoE paralyze, but that's probably why it's not on there. So again, the wizard boots, you guys kind of know it. And as far as this equipment here, I'm just trying to boost his magic as high as possible. It's 514, right? 413 willpower, 435. She only has 369 willpower, but she doesn't have the boots yet. So when I get the wizard boots, I think that'll kind of help even it out. And then she's mostly going to be, I think, on the harder the boss fights, the more defensive she's going to be. Just using her stuff to buff, heal, buff, heal, buff, heal, buff, you know, that kind of stuff. Where her stuff never runs out. As for, I actually do recommend the seal of transfiguration on some of these characters. Maybe all of them, maybe not. It kind of depends. But it makes it so when you do physical damage with your weapon, it'll actually do magic damage. It's basic attack damage. It's not for all abilities. But you'll use your magic instead of your attack. It's not as much as dealing extra damage to enemies in general. Like, it's kind of bad, but it'll make your follow-up attacks better in this build. And also, eventually, you might run out of MP, and you have to attack sometimes. And this will kind of make sure your damage doesn't completely fall off a cliff. I would probably use this as one of the 3 if you get this up to 50. I'm using it only on this one character because sometimes I do run out of MP, and when I'm doing like these long fights, and I just kind of want to be able to keep attacking and not worry about the damage falling off too far. But yeah, that's the team. Host, Housekeeper, Geodancer, and Sujimancer. Let's go ahead and try this fight here and kind of give an idea of why it's such a synergistic team and everyone can help the entire team. Also, the main reason I'm using Seiko... Oh, well, you don't have to... Are they all going to run? One of the main reasons I'm using Psycho over the other... I can't... Sonahi. Sonahi has the better armor, which gives her defense every turn. But Saiko has the ultimate ability of being able to fully heal the whole team and remove all their status ailments. So I kind of just like having that over Saiko's super ability, which is like a shitty hit. So let's take a look here. These guys are probably just going to run, but, you know, it's great being able to ukulele strum. Like, look at, I have 236 mana right now, and then I use ukulele strum. I have 236 mana. You actually gain more mana than you use because it's like a percent based. That was a great hit. Kasuga always gets charmed, I swear to God. He's just that kind of person. All right, so let's take a look at some of this. So Mask of Punishment, if this was a longer fight, I'd probably use it. But like, here's the thing. You could look at, what are they weak to, all right? Are they weak to lightning? Nope. Are they weak to fire? Nope, they have no weaknesses. So now in this situation, I could either go heavy and, you know, a chance to lower their magic, but that's more of a who cares. What I would do is I'd probably do Oil and Toil. That way, even though they're resistant to fire, eventually make it so they're not resistant to fire. It won't show up, but it'll help your other characters deal damage. And then let's say, as you can see here, like this is all housekeeper stuff, which is all pretty good. And then I've got the support. Like I like having redundancy in the support. And although I'm using the magic right now, I think the ukulele strum is probably better in the longer run, because both the host class has a increased magic on everyone. All right, we should kill these guys, honestly. But it's like, if you can see here, what I'm obviously not doing a super hard boss fight or anything like that, but what I kind of want to show is that all these abilities on all these characters synergize incredibly well. We have redundancy in healing, we have redundancy in revives, we have redundancy in being able to boost our defenses, to be able to boost our offenses, to be able to debuff the enemy, and we have all coverage of elements on pretty much every character, so we could always go for whatever exactly they're weak to. Now, a character like this where they're actually resistant to everything, maybe I would just want to do something like the corkscrew, you know? The corkscrew's a fucking incredible ability. It's heavy, it's a grapple, and it lowers willpower. It's pretty much everything you want in a magic ability. And it's fucking fun to watch, too. Alright, he could go. This was not a demonstration of power. This is just a demonstration of kind of a proof of concept, I suppose. Anyway, that is the team. This is my favorite Magic team I built so far. If you think that I'm missing something here, let me know. If you're like, oh, you're missing Sonahi, or you need another host, or it's like, oh, you forgot that this guy's base class is really good, just let me know. To be honest, I haven't used Zao, as you can see here. So maybe it's like, oh, his base class has the single best thing in the game. His armor is the single best. But I don't think so. I kind of looked over everyone, and I decided on these four being the best for a Magic team, at least in Japan. And then when I go to Tokyo, that's what I'm going to go for, probably the full physical team. And maybe I'll actually use Sanahi. I don't know. I think Sanahi does have a really, really good agility up thing, but I don't know if that's going to be better than just Psycho in general. Just having infinite mana as a healer. I think that's like really, really good. And she's already fucking fast. Sorry, not Psycho, Chitose. Get them mixed up. Psycho's way taller, isn't she? If I remember, I thought Kiryu was like twice the height of Ichiban. Not literally, but it felt that way. Anyway, that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you do, if you want to see more like this, let me know. If you don't want to see more like this, let me know, and I'll just do more job overviews and stuff like that. Now that I'm in the post game, it's much easier to grind. And after I finish the Sujimon stuff, I'm probably going to go into legendary mode, and then I'll show you guys boss guides on how to do legendary fights. Anyway, much love. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. I'll see you on the flip-flops. Bye.